This morning, a new discovery inside the Great Pyramid of Giza. Behind these gigantic chevrons above the main entrance, for the first time, a look inside, a precise analysis, a real characterization of the North Face corridor.
This discovery, in my opinion, is the most important discovery on the 21st century.
Ancient Egypt is filled with countless mysteries, and while we know the answer to some, others remain completely unsolved.
The oldest known pyramid in Egypt? Here at Saqqara.
Finally identify the mummy, known as the Screaming Man.
So from strange stones with ancient languages on them, to a hidden chamber in the pyramids that no one knew about,
no Egyptian pharaoh was ever found in a pyramid in Egypt.
Here are Egypt's hidden and unseen mysteries. 1. Tutankhamun murder. In 1922, a team led by Howard Carter discovered the tomb of the young pharaoh Tutankhamun. His resting place had been sealed for over 3,000 years, and when they opened it, they found treasures like gold and precious artifacts. This started Tutmania, with people fascinated by the boy king and the stories of a curse that came with his tomb. One mystery that still confuses people today is how Tut ended up in that tomb and what caused his death. Tutankhamun was likely the son of Pharaoh Akhenaten, known for changing Egypt's religion to focus on a single god, Aten. After Akhenaten died, Tut became king when he was only around 9 years old. He quickly worked to reverse his father's religious changes and bring back Egypt's traditional gods. Two powerful advisors, Ai and Horemheb, helped him during his short reign. Tut married his sister, Ankhesenamun, and they likely had 2 daughters, but neither survived, and their tiny mummified bodies were found in his tomb. Tut ruled for only about 9 or 10 years, before dying at the young age of 18 or 19. His death came so unexpectedly that Egypt wasn't ready, and his tomb wasn't even finished. He ended up in a smaller tomb, which some believe was originally meant for his advisor, Ai. After Tut's death, Ai became king, sparking rumors that he might have played a part in Tut's death. One of the most well-known theories is that Tut was murdered. This theory gained popularity after an Egyptologist named Robert Breyer studied an X-ray from 1968 and thought the damage to Tut's skull could be from a blow to the head. He believed someone might have killed Tut to take power. Breyer also pointed to a letter from Ankhesenamun, where she asked a foreign king for a prince to marry, saying she didn't want to marry anyone from Egypt. This letter made it seem like she feared someone back home, possibly because of Tut's murder, but later studies in 2005 and 2016 proved that the skull damage was caused by the mummification process, not a murder. While Breyer still believes Tut may have been killed by other means, there's no solid proof. Aside from Ai, 2 other suspects often come up in these murder theories, Horemheb and Ankhesenamun. Some think Horemheb, who was a powerful man in Tut's court, might have killed him to become king. Others suggest Ankhesenamun, Tut's wife, might have had her own plan to take power by marrying a foreign prince. But without solid evidence, all of this is just guesswork. Another theory about Tut's death is that he died in a chariot accident. Some scholars believe his body shows signs of a major accident, and since chariots were common for Egyptian royalty, they think Tut may have had a fatal fall. His tomb also contains 6 disassembled chariots, which supports this idea. But further investigation shows that the damage to Tut's body doesn't match what we'd expect from a serious chariot crash. The ribs, for example, were damaged long after his death, and there's no sign of other catastrophic injuries. Most Egyptologists have now moved away from the chariot crash theory. What's more likely is that Tut broke his leg before he died, and the injury may have led to an infection that killed him. Ancient Egyptians didn't have antibiotics, so even a broken leg could be fatal if it got infected. Another possibility is that Tut suffered from malaria, as a study in 2010 found evidence of multiple malarial infections in his body. Some believe that the combination of malaria and his broken leg might have overwhelmed him and caused his early death. There's also a long list of genetic conditions Tut may have had due to inbreeding in his family. Conditions like epilepsy, scoliosis, and Marfan syndrome are all possibilities. However, without solid DNA evidence, it's hard to say if any of these conditions directly caused his death. Want to find out even more Egyptian mysteries? Like this video and subscribe to our channel for more videos just like this. We've got a lot more where that came from.
Like and subscribe right now, and you'll have amazing luck for the rest of the week.
2. The Labyrinth of Giza. About 2,500 years ago, ancient Egypt had an enormous structure called the Labyrinth, which even impressed the Greek historian Herodotus, who said it was more amazing than the pyramids. For a long time, this great labyrinth was thought to be just a story, but archaeologists are now finding clues that show it might have actually existed. The Great Labyrinth of Egypt was a 2-story building with 3,000 rooms connected by winding passages that were so confusing, no one could navigate without a guide. The bottom level served as a tomb for kings, while the top level had a huge ceiling made from massive stone slabs. Several ancient writers describe the labyrinth in great detail, but after thousands of years, its exact location is still a mystery. The closest we've come to finding it is a huge stone platform that some think could be its base, but most of the structure has disappeared over time. No one has dug deep enough to uncover the labyrinth, so its full secrets remain hidden. Herodotus was fascinated by Egypt, like many other Greeks. He wrote about the labyrinth in his book, The Histories, describing its 12 courtyards, thousands of rooms, and stone ceilings. He saw the upper level, but wasn't allowed to enter the lower rooms, which were said to hold the tombs of the kings and sacred crocodiles. In 1888, Professor Flinders Petrie may have discovered the labyrinth's real location at Hawara. The remaining foundations suggest the building was around 300 meters long and 244 meters wide, large enough to fit famous temples like Karnak and Luxor. The labyrinth is believed to be connected to the pyramid of Amenemhat III, a pharaoh from the 12th dynasty, whose final resting place was likely at Hawara. Recent scans in 2008 showed underground rooms and thick walls, adding more evidence that this could be the lost Egyptian labyrinth. 3. The Rosetta Stone. The Rosetta Stone is one of the most famous artifacts in the British Museum, but what exactly is it? It's actually just a broken piece of a larger stone slab. On it, there's a message carved in 3 different types of writing. The stone played a huge role in helping experts figure out how to read Egyptian hieroglyphs, which is the writing system that uses pictures. So, why is the Rosetta Stone so important? The writing on it is an official announcement called a decree about King Ptolemy V, who ruled from 204 181 BC. This message was copied onto large stone slabs called stelae and placed in temples all over Egypt. The Rosetta Stone itself is just one of those copies. What makes it special is that the message is written 3 times, once in hieroglyphs, once in Demotic, and once in ancient Greek. The stone was found broken and incomplete, with only 14 lines of hieroglyphs, 32 lines of Demotic, and 54 lines of ancient Greek. The big deal here is that back then, nobody could read hieroglyphs, but since scholars could still read Greek, the Rosetta Stone became a key to unlocking the mystery of Egyptian writing. The stone was discovered by accident in 1799 by soldiers from Napoleon Bonaparte's army while they were building a fort near the town of Rosetta in Egypt. After Napoleon's defeat, the stone ended up in British hands and was shipped to England in 1802. As for cracking the code, English physicist Thomas Young made some progress by showing that some of the hieroglyphs on the stone represented sounds, including the name Ptolemy. But the real breakthrough came from French scholar Jean-François Champollion, who figured out that hieroglyphs recorded the sounds of the Egyptian language. This led to our understanding of ancient Egyptian writing and culture. Today, the Rosetta Stone is still on display at the British Museum, where it's been since 1802. 4. The Dendera Light. The Dendera light bulb suggests the ancient Egyptians had some kind of advanced technology, like a light bulb. This theory is based on carvings found in the Dendera temple that some people think look like modern light bulbs. But when you dig a little deeper, it becomes clear that this theory isn't actually true. One very big mistake made by people who believe in the light bulb theory is something called the "it looks like" fallacy. This means they look at a picture and guess what it is based on how it looks without any real evidence. In the case of the Dendera carvings, people say the carvings look like light bulbs, so they assume that the Egyptians knew about electricity. The carvings are actually explained by the writing found alongside them, and that writing talks about religious ideas, not electricity. The Dendera temple, dedicated to the goddess Hathor, was filled with symbols and images related to Egyptian myths and religious festivals, not technology. One argument used to support the light bulb idea is that the temple doesn't have soot from torches, but experts say that Egyptians likely used oil lamps that wouldn't leave much soot. Also, the idea that the priests had secret knowledge of advanced lighting is not backed up by any real evidence. The images at Dendera actually show Egyptian religious symbols. For example, the bubble around the snake represents the sky and the birth of the sun, not a light bulb. The Died pillar, which some compare to a Tesla coil, is a symbol of stability and is connected to the god Osiris, not electricity. Other symbols like the lotus flower, the falcon, and the sacred boats have deep religious meanings tied to rebirth, protection, and the sun. 5. The Great Sphinx of Giza. The Great Sphinx has always been a big mystery, buried in the desert sand for most of its life. People have wondered about its age, what it was built for, how it was made, and its connections to the nearby pyramids. Egyptologists and archaeologists usually stick to theories that are backed by real evidence, which makes a lot of sense. This iconic statue faces the rising sun and is located on the Giza Plateau, about 10 kilometers west of Cairo, along the Nile River. Later, Egyptian rulers honored it as a form of the sun god, naming it Hor-em-Akhet, meaning Horus of the horizon. The Sphinx is part of the ancient Memphis necropolis, close to the famous pyramids of Khufu, Khafre, and Menkaure. As the largest stone sculpture from the ancient world, the Sphinx measures 73.5 meters long and about 20 meters tall. Over time, it has lost its nose and the ritual beard, which is now in the British Museum. It's believed that the Sphinx's face was originally painted a dark red. Between its paws lies the Dream Stela, which tells the story of Pharaoh Thutmosis' forward dream. He dreamed that the Sphinx asked him to clear away the sand to gain the crown of Egypt. Sadly, the Sphinx has suffered a lot from time, pollution, and damage. When Napoleon came to Egypt in 1798, he found the Sphinx without its nose, but it had been missing long before then. Some say it was damaged during target practice, while others believe a Sufi from the 8th century removed it, thinking it was a false idol. Most Egyptologists believe that the Sphinx was built for Pharaoh Chephren around 2540 BCE, but there are no inscriptions linking him to the statue. In fact, some experts argue that the face of the Sphinx resembles Chepren's brother, Djedefre, instead. 6. The Land of Punt. Over 4,000 years ago, the pharaohs of Egypt had a trading relationship with a mysterious place called the Land of Punt, which they considered sacred and called God's Land. Punt was far away, and its exact location was kept secret. The Egyptians would travel long distances over land and sea to trade with the people of Punt, but they never revealed where it was. The first known mention of Punt is from a tablet called the Palermo Stone, which talks about Egyptian dynasties. It says that around 2450 BC, during the reign of King Sahure, Egyptian traders made a successful trip to Punt. This was the first recorded journey to Punt. The land of Punt was mostly hidden from the world because it was so isolated. The people there were happy to trade with the Egyptians, exchanging things like ivory, gold, incense, and wild animals, including baboons, for Egyptian tools, jewelry, and weapons. However, the journey to Punt was difficult and dangerous, and over time, the trading stopped and Punt's location was forgotten. When Queen Hatshepsut became pharaoh around 1470 BC, the route to Punt had been lost for years. Hatshepsut claimed the gods told her to find it, so she sent 5 ships and 210 men on a mission to rediscover Punt. The Egyptians had to sail down the Nile, disassemble their ships, carry them across land, and then put them back together at the Red Sea. They sailed for about 25 days, staying close to the shore because the ships were fragile. When the Egyptians finally arrived, the people of Punt were thrilled. The Egyptians returned with riches, but also brought back 31 myrrh trees. Hatshepsut planted these trees at her temple, making history as the first person to transplant trees from another land. The roots of the trees can still be seen today. Trade with Punt continued for a while, but eventually stopped again, and the location was forgotten. In 2020, scientists made a breakthrough by studying baboons from Egypt that came from Punt. They traced the baboons' origins to modern-day Eritrea, bringing us closer to finally solving the mystery of Punt's location. 7. The Pyramid's Hidden Chamber. Egypt is full of ancient secrets, and archaeologists think they might have just found a new one buried beneath the sands of the Western Cemetery in Giza. This cemetery is home to many rectangular tombs called mastabas, which are lined up at the base of the Great Pyramid. These tombs belong to important people and family members of Pharaoh Khufu, who ruled about 4,500 years ago. While most of the cemetery is packed with tombs, there's one spot that seems empty. But what's under the sand might be surprising. Recently, researchers discovered what looks like a flat, sandy surface that could be hiding old structures built thousands of years ago. Just a couple of feet below the surface, they found an L-shaped structure, and even deeper, there's a larger structure connected to it. Motoyuki Sato, one of the researchers, explained that the sharp corners of the L-shaped structure suggest it was made by humans, not just formed naturally. This might explain why there's such a big area in the cemetery without any tombs above. The researchers believe these hidden features could be parts of an ancient tomb, but there are still many questions left unanswered. Today's archaeology has come a long way from the old days when digging took years just to find out what a structure looked like. Now, scientists use cool new tech to map out hidden buildings without having to dig them up. This is how the team from Higashi Nippon International University, Tohoku University, and Egypt's National Research Institute of Astronomy and Geophysics found this piece of history. Between 2021 and 2023, the researchers used two high-tech methods called ground-penetrating radar and electrical resistivity tomography to study the area. GPR sends electromagnetic waves into the ground to map out what's below in high detail. ERT goes deeper and helps locate walls, shafts, and other features, but with less detail. By combining the data from GPR, ERT, and satellite images, they discovered the L-shaped structure, which measures about 32 by 50 feet and is buried about 1.6 to 6.5 feet deep. They also found a larger structure that's around 1,000 square feet and lies about 11.5 to 33 feet below the surface. One interesting thing is that the shallower L-shaped structure was filled with sand, which might give clues about what it was used for. The researchers think it could have been a kind of passageway leading to a lower tomb. In ancient Egypt, it was common to fill up shafts to keep the living from disturbing the dead. 8. The Saqqara bird. The Saqqara bird is an artifact that was found back in 1898 while digging in the tomb of a guy named Padi Imen in Saqqara, Egypt. This little wooden bird is about 14 centimeters long and has a wingspan of 18 centimeters. It weighs about 39 grams, or a bit over an ounce, making it pretty lightweight. Today you can see the Saqqara bird in the Egyptian Museum in Cairo. Dating back to around 200 BCE, nobody knows exactly what the Saqqara bird was used for, which has led to lots of theories. One thought is that it was a ceremonial object because it looks like a falcon. In ancient Egypt, falcons were important symbols for gods like Horus and Ra-Harakhti, so this bird might have had some religious meaning. Another idea is that it could have been a toy for a child from a wealthy family. Given its size and detailed design, it's easy to imagine a kid playing with it. Some people even think it could have worked as a weather vane or maybe even a boomerang, but those ideas aren't very popular among experts. One more theory is that the bird might have been placed on the masthead of sacred boats used during festivals, like the Opet festival, which was pretty important in ancient Egyptian culture. There are reliefs showing similar objects in the temple of Khonsu at Karnak that support this idea. Some researchers think the Saqqara bird could show that ancient Egyptians had some knowledge about flying. Dr. Khalil Messiha suggested it was like a small glider because of its wing shape and angle. He even made a replica out of balsa wood with an added tail and found that it could glide when thrown. But most scientists aren't convinced that the Saqqara bird could fly. A study in 2023 used a computer simulation to check its aerodynamics and found some issues. The bird was too heavy and unstable, with a low chance of gliding effectively. They noticed it had an unbalanced center of mass and that it wouldn't be able to generate enough lift to fly. Other attempts to recreate the bird's flying ability also had mixed results. Some people, like Martin Gregorier and Ivan Terence Sanderson, tried to build models based on the Saqqara bird. While a few of their versions managed to glide, they didn't really match the original design. To this day, no one really knows the true mystery behind this bird or its significance. 10. The Khufu ship. This ship was found near the Great Pyramid of Giza, which is the tomb of Pharaoh Khufu, who is sometimes called Cheops. This ship is about 4,600 years old, another Giza for his burial. Knowledge we've gained about the Khufu ship, some questions still remain unanswered. For once, we don't know how such a huge ship was moved that no one's ever seen before, or have we already found all of them?